World War II veteran in the parade. Okay, we got another one. We got Ralph, Harold, Dick, John. We got the room full here. Yeah, we'll be there.
I made a couple of changes on that.
You think people will think he's going to show up?
Oh, they won't.
You think they'll think he's going to show up? I worried about that this morning, I thought. I ain't got a cap.
Well, words on back, hopefully, you know, like we've got Kate Smith. Surely they don't think she's going to come back from the dead.
She might. Her and the king.
And it says songs, it doesn't say singer.
Placing of Reed.
Yeah. How that rain got in there.
And ran Rex on the reading of the names.
I did find
I changed that.
Yes, that's good. Yeah.
I don't think they have to, I don't think they, surely they don't think.
We hope not.
Can you see now, honey?
Yeah.
Don't take you.
Are you his wife? Why in the world don't you get his sock from that? It's your fault. If they say anything about my getting World War I names off the South Wall, don't say anything to them.
That's what you've done.
Once.
I know more about him. I know.
You must think about
I don't want to be like a company, you know?
We no longer communicate. Not that we don't try. How long did you put up with me?
Yeah. 47 years. Hey, I didn't know you way back today.
I spent 42 of them out in front of women's restrooms.
These guys been here for this. They better hurry up and get this press conference started.
I guess we need some press to show up. Yeah, we got like a big press corps in Rushville.
Yeah.
Now turn the radio. Let me tell you what happened to me in World War II. One time when I called home. And remember the old telephones we used to have? Cramped, you know? And that's what we had out there at Arlington. We had 3 girls who were the operators. And May Long was one of them, and Mrs. Alexander, and Ruth Ridlin. Now they always knew where Doc's shop was, where Doc Cat, the veterinary, was. Knew everybody's business. And you could be over here at Raceville, and you could call home, go call your mom, and she wouldn't answer. And so the operator would say, well, says, she might be up at Ida Bacon's. I heard her tell Maud Brown a while ago that Ida Bacon wasn't feeling very well. And I'd say, well, now, if you get a hold of her, would you tell her I won't be home till 5 o'clock? Sure. And that's the way it happened. But today, out there, instead of that exchange building, they got a little cement block building with switches and relays, and they won't give your mom a message. They won't even know if you got a mom. Then, yeah, that's the kind of phone remember we had back in World War II yet. And I was in Washington, D.C., and I decided to call home, and I went up to the pay booth and I put a nickel in. I remember when you put a nickel in? And I said, I wanted to place a person-to-person call, or collect call rather, to Rex Kemp. Now my dad's name was Rex David, and they always called me Eugene when I was a kid, you see, and when, you know, I was Rex E. And I said, I want to place a collect call to Rex Kemple in Arlington, Indiana. She said, you mean Arlington, Virginia, don't you? I said, no, I mean Arlington, Indiana. She said, all right. What's the number, please? I said, it's too long as they're short. She said, that's not a number. I must have a number. That is a number, operator. Too long as they're short. Well, she said, never mind. So she started calling. You know, back then, the operators had to route their calls. So she had to call New York. Then she had to have that operator call Chicago. And that operator had to call Indianapolis. That operator had to call Riceville. Now I could tell that she's beginning to lose her patience. And she finally got Arlington. And I recognized May Long's voice when she came on the line. He said, "I'm a correct call for Rex Campbell. May I have the number, please?" And May said, "That's too long to the short." I said, "Operator, I told you it's too long to the short." May said, "Is that you, Eugene?" Operator said, "You can't talk now. This is a correct call. I must have a number, please." Well, May just ignored her. She said, "Well, your folks won't be home with the ball game tonight. They'll be down at the gym." The operator said, "I must have a number, please. This is a correct call." May said, "Oh, that's all right. I'll just charge the Rex's bill." I said, "That's 3 longs to the short." So she called the Jim, Charlie Northam. He was the janitor. He answered. May said, "Charlie, get Eugene on the, get Rex on the phone. Eugene's on here." And so Dad came on the phone, and about that time I heard the click as the operator hung up. I just felt like a Ma Bell had gotten her comeuppance.
Thank you, Rex.
How come you didn't become a comedian?
Yeah.
Huh?
I was coming earlier. What do you think he is now?
I got tied up there.
He's becoming one.
You come out my house, I'll show you a whole bunch of trophies I won on humorous speech contests and the serious speech contests too.
They give you them just to get rid of you, huh?
Yeah. You got a friend back there.
This is all extemporaneous, Steve. At our first meeting, I volunteered to use my computer to process the list of World War II veterans who were inducted from Rice County or had moved into Rice County after the war. The only list available to us was that which was on the courthouse wall. Better to call us and give us further information. So far, all we had was a list of names that indicated those killed or missing in action. We wanted to know if others were still living and their branch of service. We also needed the names of those veterans who had since the list of living veterans was published. Wow, the calls really started to come. Those who had assumed that we had their name of all the veterans wanted to make certain of their listing. Until that time, we had only 2,112 names, and only 13% of the records were complete. Since the calls have started, we now have 2,210 names, when 30% are completed records. Our goal is to have at least 50% completed records. On June 30th, we will start processing the names to be displayed at the fair, and no more names will be added for that purpose. However, these are record for posterity. These will be available on a 3.5-inch floppy disk in ASCII or a hard copy consisting of about 45 pages. Unless we have funds to use for supplies, we must ask that the floppy disk be supplied and must make a small charge for the paper and ribbons that it takes to print them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex.
Timothy Gilski, Beverly Whitaker, Jay Newton, and Linda Irvin. Ever since the original thoughts were put together concerning a salute to the World War II Raish County veterans, we have been trying to raise funds for this event. We have collected collection cans around the area at businesses that seem to give us some things to be held during the previous week. Keep buying the dollar chances. We held a benefit rummage sale and auction. Many individuals donated items for the sale, and thanks to them and Al McLaughlin and the Raish County Auction Center, we had a very successful fundraiser. We were rained out at the Glenwood Festival, but set up at the Monley Pit.
Thank you, James. In of memorabilia and photographs through Sunday, July 25th on the removal. I think we'll have right now Bob Brown come up and tell us, or tell the people, how to get ready for us.
Good like a kid, wasn't he?
I'll do that before we have been touched.
That's what my mama said. Okay, registration, the picture's in, and the other will be placed with the picture like so. All service photographs will be checked in by registration by our committee. We also have another sheet that shows the name, the size of the picture, a phone number, and a person to call, because in case they get a little shuffling going on here, we'll still have a backup here for what is needed for emergency purposes. Saturday, July the 17th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, July 18th, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. at the Morton Building. Now, this will be for the picture bring-in, and it is essential that we get this information to the people around about us to comply with these times and these dates. Only one photo per veteran will be allowed in this section. We would prefer you bring framed one, if not at least mounted 5x7 or 8x10 service photos. If they do not have a frame, then we have this here that we can put the picture on, and then we also have one similar to this here as a 5x7. So at least we'll be able to take care of anybody that has problems with getting a frame for us then. We want the photos of an individual serviceman in uniform. If you have smaller photos mounted on a 5x7, which would be, of course, a 5x7 on a piece of cardboard, to show the photo is who it is of, what information that the public might read about, on the branch of service he was with, and whether he was Pacific, Europe, stateside, or whatever theater they might have been in. Circulated around for the guys that were killed in action. There will be a display case set up, might have even been some of their daughters that were nurses or in the medical corps that might have been killed during this time. So we want all of this information brought into us so that we can put it on display in a proper place that will be designated for the KIAs. Plexiglass during the tribute hours, and 24-hour security will be on the building, so we don't have any worry that somebody's going to break in and come in and steal the memorabilia or the pictures or do any destruction within the place. No one will be able to handle the photos because those of us that saw the display cases know how they're constructed, that Mark had them made, and they'll be back of plexiglass, and therefore they'll just be able to walk down and they'll be able to see. We're going to put the photographs on the upper two levels, memorabilia will be down on the lower levels. Photos must be returned or recovered, however you want to phrase it, July the 25th, 12 noon to 6 p.m. with check-in stubs. We've got to have the little stub here, of course. No early removals will be allowed. We must get the word around about the boys that were at KIAs, because it is essential that we have a portion that will be set up for them to be taken care of.
Thank you, Bob.
With the National Guard, thought maybe we'll get some stuff in here from Camp Atterbury. Well, they won't turn loose their stuff, so the young guy by the name of Greg Ray, captain in the National Guard, give me some information, and I wrote these guys letters, and there were 3 letters I wrote. Well, the one guy had a 1942 2.5-ton truck, 2 of them. He's the only one contacted me, and the last day of the fair, there will be a helicopter flew in from, they're gonna display it for one day. The mobilia is just the same as the pictures. They'll, from 10 o'clock on July the 17th, is that right, 17th?
Yes. Yes.
July the 17th
17th and 18th.
and the 18th, from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from noon to 6 p.m. on the 18th. I called about the tickets today, the cards, they are being printed to get them next week sometime. We will have tickets to put on the stuff, who they belong to, and the same procedure on the mobilia as on the pictures. They have a certain time to bring them in and a certain time to pick them up. But I do have quite a few people that's called me. We do have some German stuff, some Japanese stuff. I don't know how much. They called me and told me they had it. We will display this stuff in the display cases. Nobody will be able to pick it up and walk off with it, except just up in Pennsylvania. He was, got them off of some kind of ship, I don't know, but how he got them home, I don't know, but we're borrowing them. And, this was given to me, it's, supposed to be an anti-tank shell. The best I could get off it was a M30 1942.
Hey, Steve, you
Okay,
wanna talk
couple
about
of
that?
quick things. One is it'll be first come, first served. If we get our display cases full and the walls full, then we'll have to stop it. Let's see, the other thing is security. There will be security there to protect all items. I think that's pretty well. The other thing on small pictures, we'd like to have it like a collage. We don't want everybody to bring them in, just dump them there. It'd be nicer if it was already prepared.
Now, are you gonna hang those on the wall?
Yes, the collages will hang on the wall, unless they'll fit on the bottom rows of the displays. But of course, it's whether they're full or not. Okay? Any other questions?
Now, do they have to be covered?
Oh, you mean the glass?
Yeah,
No, not really. This has a piece of plastic over this one. And it's just a piece of cardboard. Cardboard with plastic.
saran wrap or something like that?
Yeah, you can take that saran wrap and wrap around it and you can see through it.
Yeah.
But you don't have to put anything on it.
You really don't have to put anything on it.
No.
Doc M's, what's his name? I don't.
Doc Weddick.
Weddiking. He's fixing up some of that cardboard, and he wanted to know how to.
Yeah, now, if there's room and they'll fit, we'll put them on the display case where they don't need a cover.
Well, I suppose he could fix it up.
One thing more, I seen this rake, Captain Rake, tonight as I coming down here, and I stopped and talked to him. And I told him these two people that I contacted that had my mobility did not get back with me. He says, I'll take care of it. He said, I'll get you some more contacts. So he is full-time National Guard and he is working with us. I'm gonna bring in a Coast Guard, Chief Petty Officer uniform. I was trying to get some Maticans. I haven't contacted them in years, but I'm going down and see if they'll let us have maybe 3 or 4 Maticans. And we'll get some Maticans and we can put these uniforms on them Maticans. Make any difference whether they're women or men, we just put the uniforms on them.
People to know that there has been quite an expense to perform that kind of security and get everything covered, and they still need to be paid for. They will be, everything will be under plastic, and as the gentleman's already mentioned, everything will be secured and covered, and people can't handle it, and they're all made and ready to go, and I think they'll work out real well. But we'd like the people to know that the expense on them.
Would the scouts be willing to assist us in putting this memorabilia and the pictures on these shelves from where we register them at the table to take the picture in our memorabilia and the card and place it? Could we act like as a runner for us? Is there some of them that might want to do that for us?
I think we could work that out with you. We would have probably,
We might get 6.
Because I imagine this is going to pick up steam as they start bringing in. We're going to need people going back and forth like this.
okay, I'll put that on the agenda.
Next item will be a World War II theater will be set up at home and abroad. Each evening during the Salute Week, the World War II theater will be open to the public, free of charge. Movies, newsreels, videotapes will be shown nightly to add to this great celebration. Our chairman, Bob Temple's put together a big program. Just to give you an example, on Monday night, Target Pearl Harbor, Jolly Rogers, Memphis Blue, True Glory, Women of Courage. I don't want to go through this whole list, but Wednesday, for example, the Birds of War, American Fighters and Bombers of World War II, the Hellcat, B-25 Mitchell, clear up to Saturday, which is Fighting in the Pacific. Every night we have different videos to show, all free of charge for everybody to see.
Combat during war that the United States was in from World War I clear up to date. But we are centering our work on World War II veterans from Rush County. We'll list all World War II veterans, but primarily the ones from Rush County. On entering the tribute building, all veterans will be asked to register. On the registration card is to be checked, which will show what area the veteran served in. If the World War II area box is checked, then a commemorative 50-year after button, which is on the, who's going to need that? Thank you. This button here will be presented to that veteran. And that he will need to keep that with him anytime that he comes to the fair, if he intends to enter the USO. This will be his admit. This commemorative button will also allow him and his spouse to admit to the USO Center. It is to be held, we would have a wall map on the world display, and a pin will be put in on that map showing what area the veteran was in the area. The public knows where the Rush County veterans were during the time of World War II. The completed registration card will be compared with our master list to update needed information. Only for one commemorative button will be issued to each veteran. So if you return each night to the canteen, and we hope you do, please bring your button with you. These are expensive and we only have a limited supply. We hope we've got enough of them to cover all the veteran center directs. And we hope to see a goodly number of veterans there. Thank you.
Great. We also have on the walls,
they will have pegboards. And these will be hung up on pegboards around the walls. And then they have from this World War, and during the coming in, make sure everything is covered. These photos, if you have them and you have them out there on a paperwork, someone's liable to want one. And if you got that there, like I said, saran wrap or something over it, they're not safe to take it, because some of these photos will be taken during World War II. Now I'm going to show a bunch that was taken at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, 1941. And some of them will be Louisiana during the 1941 maneuvers, which right now they're very valuable photos because you just don't get them anymore. So everything you have, make sure you have it covered. They can say put it out so it's not covered, but you just put a piece of plastic over it or something and it'll be all right. But if it's just on a board in these little 4-corner things.
thank you very much. The other treat we have for the veterans that register at, but as a little treat we have prepared for you is as authentic as we can get, is a USO canteen. Now Marjorie, if you'd like to come up here and I'll go through it. I want Marjorie to come up because she's worked very hard on this, setting up the canteen, and it's going to be quite a deal for us. Or not for me, I can't get in, but you want me to read this? You want to read it? Okay. The USO Canteen is a place to pause and share memories with fellow veterans and spouses each evening during the salute. A canteen will be held to allow veterans a place to rest, congregate, and share some of their wartime memories with others. A sponsor each night will be offering free refreshments to the veterans. Music of that time will be provided to add mood for this refuge. All in a huge military tent set up adjacent to the tribute building. The only way to gain admittance to this canteen is through the tribute building, and only then if you show your commemorative 50-year after button. Obtained at the registration. Workers will have the tent decorated canteen style. It will be a highlight of the Salute Week and will be open the same hour as the Tribute Building, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. nightly. Because of a limited supply of free refreshments, we need to limit the canteen to only veterans and spouses or wives and husbands of deceased veterans. Sponsors for the canteen will be Les Blair's, Winkerbee's, Pizza King, Subway Sandwich, Mom's Park Restaurant, and we desperately need 2 more sponsors. It's going to be a highlight. It's going to be a place where only the veterans can go and rest and talk, and we're really looking forward to it. Anything you need to add to this, Marjorie? You've done a lot of work on it. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Marjorie. Thank you very much. Now, one more thing, then we'll get on with our special speakers. The kickoff, we're kind of backing up again. This will be the July 19th. This is on a Monday night. This will be at 6 p.m. And our opening ceremonies, it is really put together well. Our chairman, Steve Land, at this time will come up and explain to us exactly what goes on.
Okay, the first thing that's going to happen that night will be the World War II aircraft flyover. Then there will be some red, white, and blue balloons released by the veterans' family. Next will be the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will give, then the National Anthem, and then the invocation. We haven't picked.
I think Doug will be there.
Doug will be there, okay. And then opening remarks by Dave. It's plans for tribute at the fair plus a salute to Rush County veterans. Introduction of guest speaker, Dave Matney will do that. The guest speaker is Brigadier General Donald R. Kennedy. Next will be a song by Billy Ray Cyrus, Some Gave All. Then a special ceremony by Rex Kemple. Those that paid the supreme sacrifice and to their Gold Star mothers. And then after that, reading of those killed or missing in action by Rex Kemple. And then placing of the wreath by Brigadier General Kennedy. A 21-gun salute, taps, benediction, and then the song God Bless America by Kate Smith. And then we'll have the ribbon cutting ceremonies. Hopefully the Rush County Fair Queen will be there, and the Fair Board President, Will Shanko. And then the rest of the evening will be a dedication to Glenn Miller and his music. A few songs, American Patrol, Tail End Charlie, When Johnny Comes Marching Home, and then others played in the canteen. Also, the Indiana National Guard is furnishing the color guard, the 21-gun salute, and then our taps will be played by Dave Clevenger and Jim Stair. Any questions?
It'll be quite an evening. Thanks, Steve. Leading right into our speakers for tonight, one of our displays, of course, we've tried to encourage everyone to bring not only wartime memorabilia, or that is overseas memorabilia, but we want something from the home front. What happened here? The whole war was not fought overseas. We had a lot of sacrifices were made here in the United States. And I've had the privilege to see this display once, and I'm very excited to see it again. And at this time, I'd like to have Marion Liggett come up and go through his presentation on home front, or war at the home front.
I got it, this display. Could we set a chair on this table?
Sure we could. Can we? Where's the, can we?
Brief resume, coming up to the home front, we went through the gay 90s, and the Depression hit. 34 was a dry year. 36 was so much worse that we remember that year. 38 we began to come out of it, but Hitler invaded Poland. Things hadn't picked up too much in prices and things. In the spring of 40, my youngest sister was born, and Dad sold homes for $7.40 a hundred. That's in spring of 1940. In October, around October the 10th or 12th, in October of 1940 was the first peacetime draft of the United States. I don't know just where the fellows went to sign up, but it was a big room. And you remember Bob Scott that used to be in the 1st Federal, gray-headed man? He and Dad was together, and that gray hair evidently fooled the fella that was signing it up. He looked up at Bob and said, "Listen, fella, this is serious business." And Bob said, "You're damn right it's serious. he thought Bob was too old for the draft. I think they drafted or signed up from 18 or up to 45. And so during the war, there was 3 important things that you had to carry. Of course, one of them was your driver's license. This one right here was a registration certificate to show that you had registered. This is your classification, and this card right here was identification for your things that was a ration card. You had to be identified. These books here, 1, 2, 3, 4, they look something like this, and they fold them in fours. And it started out that you could not tear it out. The man at the store had to tear it out. That was to keep you from having too many books. They gave you a folder. This folded up. You carried the purse. You carry your book. Such number was good for so much. And when could you get one? Well, I got one up there. The little baby boy was 2 weeks old. He got him a ration book. He was in business. His mother saw that he was. Then things was kind of frozen for a little bit. And the first thing they did after Pearl Harbor was establish the OPA, the Office of Price Administration. Now, it just wasn't price administration, that was also rationing. And so things was set, they went back and tried to hit an average. Now, you fellows know that you could only get $14.85 for fat hogs. That was it. And there was such a glut at Indianapolis that he was parked clear out, trucks parked out on Kentucky Avenue. And you just moved up because there was such a glut for hogs, because that fall they hit in there. And hogs stayed $14.80 until it was declared that Japan had failed in August. And they immediately went to $25, and you know, they Doug Marsh out here at Armour shipped out 5 carloads to the East Coast that evening. That was quite a jump, but one thing was, fellas knew it was going to be called off, and there hadn't been any hogs sold for about 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer than that, because they knew that it would break loose. We was hit the gasoline ration. Gasoline wasn't really scarce, it was the rubber, it was the tires. There was fuel, but it all went together. And so, by rationing gas and dropping the speed limit to 35 miles an hour, that cop caught me doing 50 once, and old Justice Peace down there sold me $3. that was my experience. Of course, after all, driver's license only cost you 50 cents a year, too. So, I mean, everything was pretty well in general. But you carried these. Then later on, they began to get more sophisticated. And they issued these coupons here for 20 points, and that was for meat, fats, fish, and cheese. Now, if you didn't use your 20 points worth, they give you change. That's these little red tokens. Some of them were blue. Maybe you see them laid in a box around home. That's what they were. Incidentally, they aren't valid anymore. We had 2 cars. Dad had one, and he had a B sticker, and that was necessary gas. And I had an old Oldsmobile 35 Olds. And I had an A sticker. In fact, right here is my last 4 original stickers. Your license number had to be on them. I got 4 gallons a week. I lived 2 miles from town. I could go to school 5 times and a ball game on Friday night, once in a while. But if I had to get feed ground and I delivered eggs to the poultry house and cream to Schlossers, Dad had to help me out a little bit. Let's get this black market deal. There was a legal right down the line, and then there's a black market, and there was kind of a gray area. And sometimes you kind of had to operate in that area. I took a dozen eggs and a pound of butter to Doc Shanks every week. Never Doc Shanks, and Dad never paid a doctor bill. So I don't know whether that's black market, but it's a gray area. If you took a hog to a locker, you were supposed to turn in your points, your meat, to be right with you fellas in town. Those fellas out in the country, there's no doubt about it. The old groundhog digs 2 holes, and these farmers have 2 also. But they weren't turned in. It's hard to enforce. But they had to have more money, so they put a sticker on the windshield. Remember those? And depending upon the time of the year you bought it, 42 cents was the cheapest, and $5 was the most expensive. And you had to buy those yearly. These things are kind of hard to come by because they were glued to the windshield. Here's my old A sticker. I don't know why I saved that, but one morning, my old car sitting out, it was a real foggy morning. The old windshield was all wet, and that thing's hanging about half loose, and I took it off real easy. God bless my hay. I still have it. But the 4 gallon a week did slip down, and there was a time that we got less. The Germans were torpedoing the fuel boats that's coming out of Texas, going up the East Coast. In fact, we spend the winter at Lake Worth there at West Palm, and there's an old fellow, he says, I saw one go down out there. It says, we didn't know what happened until we seen these boats going out to him. And so the Intercoastal Waterway was established where the boats could travel inland, end up the East Coast to get oil. John L. Lewis, during his Henry Hyde, you know, it was struck just about November, the coal miners, and he got his way with it. And so the big pipelines come across the United States in the 30s to counteract and to try to nullify the effect of John L. Lewis's strikes. They handled a lot of fuel, but there wasn't enough pipelines. The East Coast was the one that was hurt the worst. You probably saw whole train loads of tank cars going through Richfield. But there's another thing that was saving stamps. First of all, we had saving stamps. I've got them. Well, yes. Here's a saving stamp. Here and here is on guard. Now the on guards were first, and then we got the saving stamps. And you saved a book. This is my wife's book here. And you bought a $25 bond for how much?
Well, it's 18.
I thought it was 18.
1875.
1875. Yeah. Okay, let me give you an idea what happened to those. My father and mother-in-law brought my brother-in-law one in 1944. He was a little boy. And it got put in a lockbox. And when Mrs. Fancher passed away in '89, the government had already stopped any interest on them, and you're supposed to take them and put in new bonds. Guess what that $25 bond was worth? Laying there, drawing interest. Of course, the interest went up more than what? $114. And they said they had enough of them out that would break the United States if they didn't stop paying interest on them. That's just one of the things, I reckon, but that's what that $18.75 done from 1944 to 1989, and the government hadn't paid the interest on it for 5 years. But you turn these in, and incidentally, a lot of people had those in a lockbox, and if you turned them in to the bank, the post office, you only got face value. And I had a brother-in-law in the banking business, and he bought some for me. But they didn't trust you all on gasoline and tars, and so they began to tighten down. You had to have your tars, or every one's a serial number. So you had to have the serial number off the tar, and every so often you had to have it examined. This happens to be my father-in-law's list right here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tars listed here, and serial numbers. And Bill Cowell up here on Main Street checks them out on his 1940 Chevy with the license number 245605, September 21st, 1944. Even used tars were rationed. And the things, rubber was tight. Now Germany was already making synthetic rubber. And our first synthetic rubber was an S5, and corn stalks would go into your tractor tar. Then came S3s. And incidentally, I bought a 1943 International H, it's been a couple years ago, for $250 to restore it, and it had the S3 tars on it. It was a wartime tractor. The old man had it, hadn't been run for years. I'm not exactly an international lover, you know that. And so I sold it to a boy that I knew would give it the good treatment. And it's in his hands. I ought to get those tars. But synthetic tars worked better on tractors because they were hard, they weren't pliable, but a tractor tar was slow, and it was different on a car. Immediately, of course, after the war, we captured all the German arts of making it, what went in it, and we see great significance in synthetic rubber. Fuel oil, home heating fuel. Those of you who had furnaces needed fuel oil. So you applied, application, applied the draft board, well, there's too many boards there. The ration board brought them up from high school, and us fellas got in the study hall, and a fella told us how to fill them out, and so we filled them out here, or they had their name, and you took the square feet of the house, and there was, and the number of inhabitants made a difference, and you had a multiplying factor, and so you allotted them so much fuel for a certain length of time. There was the formula and everything. Well, you felt you could get shot doing this, but we didn't have to sign our names because we knew there would be a lot of dissatisfied people. But the fellow says, go ahead, give everybody some, and then we will work out the details with them later. And I remember very well these blanks here, but this is 25 gallon. I got one on here that shows it just for 1 gallon. If you had a tractor that burnt gas for agriculture, you used the R4. If you was a doctor or an emergency or something, or an essential worker, you used the C stamp. You had these on your windshield. And Gene tells me they had a T for truck.
T for tractor.
T for tractor. Well, we never had one on the tractor. We started out with tractor fuel, and you got fuel. But they changed the fuel during the war and had enough octane. It took gas stamps to get it, so we applied for gas stamps, and it made it nice because we could, instead of carrying 2 tractor fuels, you see, you started on gas and run on tractor fuel. Well, we started and run on gas, and the gas man brought us a bigger tank. Shoe stamps. Those are special shoe stamps. Now, there's people who lost their houses, who lost their shoes, things. Usually, once in a while, these stamps here would buy a pair of shoes. But if you needed something special, well, you would go and get a special shoe stamp such as this. You wonder where I got all these. I had a friend, I'm a stamp collector, in Brooklyn. And he run an OPA office, worked in it. And we made a deal. And that's where I got these. I wouldn't run the black market, believe me. I'd had some money here if I'd have had those full sheets at a certain time, but they're not anymore. Then we kept coming down here and get the bifocal set up high. Oh yes, suppose you had a farm sale or a funeral dinner or an occasion that the women needed a group of more food. You would go and turn in what you needed, and they would give you this one here, and you would go to the store and get the extra food. It didn't come off of anybody's book. Now, this one right here was a sugar purchase, a certificate. Are those fellows asleep back there? This is sugar. This came at canning time. You always need a little bit more sugar, and they were understanding. They expected you to use it, and most people were honest. It was nice if they would treat you right, well, you would treat them right. You needed a stove. Didn't make any difference. Heat stove, cook stove, what it was? You just couldn't go in the hardware store and buy one. You had to have a reason. Your house burnt down. Maybe you needed a stove, or something went wrong. You had to have a stove. You couldn't buy a user, so you had a reason to get a stove. Here's a gasoline purchase permit. Suppose you wanted to go to a hospital or make a trip necessary, and they would. This says here not good for more than 10 gallon. They would give you an extra 10 gallon purchase. Rubber footwear. Rubber footwear. Earl Horton. You know Earl Horton. Earl Horton. He could sling the English language pretty good once in a while. Well, he's out at the Farm Bureau one time, and he had tried to get a pair, and he found out he wasn't an essential worker. And consequently, they turned him down. This was for rubber boots that took a lot of rubber. Overshoes, smaller shoe things weren't rationed. But rubber boots, if you worked in a place where you needed them, and that called for rubber, why, they were rationed. This one down here was tire, a tire certificate, and you had to have that for using, and he wanted you to turn in your old one. It was very necessary that you turn your old one in to get a new one. You needed an automobile. The last automobile were 1940s. They were the 40 models. They made some cars all through the war. We got a car off the ration board in 1941. Dad did, but you had to know where to get it, and the certificate had to be used within 15 days. And well, Jim Foster's father-in-law Miller run a filling station down where Hoying's Wholesale is, and he and Dad were good friends. And Dad had been talking to him. He says, "I think I can get you a car from Holcomb Pontiac in Indianapolis." Well, Dad says, "When you find out for sure, I'll apply for a certificate." And consequently, we got a car. This one right here is another inspection, car inspection that you had for your tires. This here is for, these here are just for 1 gallon. These here stamps here was a non-highway, and they started out at 1 gallon, and then they went to 5 gallons. I pretty well, I think, hit all that I got on the display. Now, like these stamps and things here, I started collecting stamps when I was 10 years old, and believe you me, I got seven volumes about this thick of stamps, and I'll show you some later on. Concerning black market, yes, once in a while you could get sugar. It used to come out of the warehouse. It was dirty like. There was always someone that was and cars was awful tight. But there were several routes pulled. The OPA was given authority, and what they made were rules. It wasn't law. Now, if you had a farm sale and you quit farming, everything had to go for ceiling price. But if you passed away and it was an estate, the law says you sell it to the highest and best bidder. Consequently, tools, machinery was sold that way, the highest and best bidder. If you had a tractor, a pickup baler, or a rubber-tired wagon, your widow had money, and the sale's over. But out here where J&M Machine Shop out on Fort Wayne Road, where the stone house is, Bethel Hinton owned that farm, and he decided to quit farming and have a sale, and he had a brother-in-law by the name of Charlie Mars, was a horse trader, and he was a slipper. So they come up with an idea, and they announced the day of the sale that everything went at ceiling price, but you had to pay to have it delivered. Well, you put your name in the hat, and you had to be identified. In other words, you had to get your billfold out. You couldn't bring in a busload of guys from way somewhere to put their names in the hat. They tried to keep it local. Now, Hoyt Vanderbeck was trying to sell, and Hoyt didn't make the announcement. Charlie Mars made the announcement, and it says, you pay the ceiling price, and for each ceiling price, then you buy to have it delivered. Well, naturally, it's a 12A combine, and I think it started out at about, the ceiling price on it was about $650. And if you start at $650, I mean, everybody did that, naturally. So then they started the delivery charging, and it went up, it went up, it went up, and it got a little over $400, and my father-in-law, Delbert Fancher, and Harold Ball was a successful buys of the delivery. Now, they went home, they took the combine home. One of them stayed there and watched it, so someone wouldn't hook it, well, the other one went to get the truck to pull it home. And that was the spring of the year, and about 2 months later, from the FBI called on my father-in-law. And he wanted to know if the bought such system. Yes. Could I see it? Yes. He wrote the serial number off of it. It says, now I understand that you paid, it's over $400 delivery on this. That's right. I said, did you pay it? He says, yes, I did. And he says, how did you pay that? He says, I gave a check. And he showed him the check. He thanked him. Well, the FBI went around and they collected off of Bethel and Charlie those delivery charges. But they didn't return them to the fellas that paid it. The FBI kept the money. And they said that was a ruling. What the OPA said was just a ruling. It wasn't law. But wartime authority was pretty thick, and consequently, it might be a ruling, but it was the law. Yes, we butchered. Yes, we sold small amounts of meat to people, usually friends, at butchering time, and we delivered. About everything we raised was chickens, hogs, milk, cattle, beef cattle. We didn't go into the cannery into the tomatoes, potatoes, or sweet corn, or in the canneries. There had to be help brought in. You know, they brought the Jamaicans in, and these colored folks out here call themselves black. They don't know what black is if you haven't seen a Jamaican pick of tomatoes. I mean, they shine. And they were good people. And sing, they were nice people. Then there's also some German prisoners of war. I think Jimmy Dyer could tell you about that. Jimmy, can't you? You unloaded tomatoes up at Carthage?
Mays.
Hermes?
Yeah, they had a prisoner camp around Morristown, someplace. And cannery would get them up there to help to labor, furnish labor.
Charlie Amy ran that, Hayes Canyon Pipe, right?
That's right.
Jim said a cigarette sure went a long ways, his wages. But you have any other questions? Look at this right here to see. Talking about the war, as I said, we were at war before we were. You remember, we were making things and sending them to England, Lend-Lease. We was making, the factories was over. We weren't really too concerned about, let me exhibit I gotta go get. Left it in the truck out there, but we weren't too concerned concerning the war until Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor Sunday, my sister and her future husband came down home from Indianapolis, and the preacher came out, and he was going to get married next Sunday, and consequently the radio didn't play, and I went home. I wasn't too much interested in a wedding anyway, and the radio didn't get turned on that evening, and the next morning I went to school. Pearl Harbor had been bombed. Pearl Harbor. People was talking about it, and so Mr. Carmack was head of the Assembly Hall, and we all went in there and turned on the radio real loud, and we heard President Roosevelt ask Congress to declare war on Japan, that day that will be remembered in infamy. It was unanimous except one woman voted against it, and she promised her constituents she would never vote for war, and she kept that promise. You know, she's a good politician. She didn't change. I don't blame her, but that was her conviction. Then shortly thereafter, why we declared it, I think, for the next day on Germany. Mr. Carmack says, now listen, we're at war, and from this day forward, things is going to be different. And I'm talking to some of you young fellas in here that's going to know what I mean. And they begin to drive home the seriousness of war. And of course, you had drives. They said, Masters furnished 4 gates. You set up the courthouse lawn. You pitched old rubber in. You pitched aluminum in. They'd have different drives. The townships would divide up in blocks, and you had a person who went around and sold war bonds. You just didn't. There were war bond drives, and they were always doing something. The farming tools. They still made farming tools, and the permits there for them. Yeah, just lay it down there. Farming tools are handled through the WWII, and if you knew where to get a tool, a new tool, and you could prove that you needed it, they would give you a permit. So consequently, you had to work with the dealer, and you had to wait for it. The tractors didn't come with cast iron wheels; they had fresh steel wheels, and no chrome, you know, or anything like that. And so we see that you had to have them for agriculture. We saw small tractors come in. We saw H. John Deere's at pull 116 to take the place of a team of horses. But we had machinery. Now, if you got something off what you call the ration board, you were kind of obligated to help your neighbor. And it seemed like we were pretty fortunate in getting machinery, and Dad never said no. And my commission on picking corn, combining, was $1/4 acre. Of course, that was pretty good money. He was giving me $50 a month, and that was a bonus, but you sure got tired of that. And one time, clover seed was real scarce, and they would give you so much an acre if you combine your clover seed. And we had a combine on the board, and I run all over. I got a book of everybody I done and how much I got. Machinery was adequate. It was necessary, but the time it came along about 43, in 1943, 44, even though the continuous bombing of Germany, we began to see that we were getting the edge. The Battle of Midway had taken place. Japan's Navy backbone was broken, and Germany was beginning to get short of planes. Continuous bombing took place, and they saw that it's going to have to feed Europe and feed the nation, and so food became very sensitive. Then when ration really tightened up, you could buy one loaf of bread. Bread was never rationed, but you could only buy one loaf at a time. They passed an act in Congress called the Tidings Act, making if you could produce so much on the farm, you became an essential worker. And that was 16 units. That 16 units with so many acres of tomatoes, so many gallons of milk or pounds of milk, so much meat and this and that. And I was 18 the spring of '43. I graduated, and they sent you a card to go to the local doctor, and if you had 2 arms, 2 legs, looked straight, it's what they didn't want to do was send you to Indianapolis if you were just physically handicapped. And then the next thing, I know some of you fellas, I didn't show this to you, but how many of you got a letter that says greetings on it? 4 of your friends and neighbors, that's all right, I think most of them fellas know what I'm talking about. But you wonder who your friends and neighbors was, saying your greetings? Examine. This here says you pass, and this here says you get a 3-month deferment. And that's more or less the way I lived. Dad at that time was in bed with heart trouble, and it wasn't hard. In fact, I could produce close to 48 units of food, and I got an essential. I lived on 2 seed deferments, but when that's up, I always got a notification to get my business done in 2 weeks that I could go. And that's the way that I spent the war, was on these 2 seed deferments, and the AAA had to verify that you was producing this food and was actively engaged in agriculture. The folks pulled a restriction on me. I couldn't go to the pool room. I wasn't local town. I wasn't running around. 4 gallons of gas a week. Didn't run very much, although I did have a girlfriend that I went, and consequently, I'll bring in my next exhibit here. But it's not very big. To tell you when we were really at war, when it really got down on you, some of you have seen these before. They begin to appear in churches. The honor roll. This is off the wall hanging church. 30 on there. 18 are gone. Ironically, none of these boys was killed in war. They were remembered in prayers. I hope there's a place on the wall that we might have this up there in the tent. How many of you remember honor rolls in your church, prayers and things? That's when your sons and grandsons and the friends and neighbors was somewhere fighting. You really knew what the war was about. It came close to home. I'll briefly go through this. These are wartime stamps. These were stamps that was put out during war. These stamps here are like, there's Korea, let me back on it, Albania, Norway, Poland, Luxembourg, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Yugoslavia, Denmark, Albania, Netherlands, France, Greece, and Belgium. As countries were liberated, the United States put out a stamp. Now, how many of you remember these stamps? There weren't very many of them. They're really scarce. And later on, they did put out one for Korea. Franklin Roosevelt passed away during the war, and they put out 4 stamps, 1 cent, 2 cent, 3, and 5, commemorating him. Then they come out with the men of Corregidor. The picture motion industry put one because they furnished free pictures, free movies to the boys in service. And this is to the Army. This is Iwo Jima, the sailors, the Coast Guard, the Merchant Marine, and the National Guard. Those stamps were put out during the war. Then we come here. These were the old stamp boxes.